My night shift had one rule: don't open the back door. The rule: the night I started at Miller's Gas and Go, the manager handed me the keys, a flashlight, and a laminated sheet of paper with 5 rules printed on it in bold red ink. But one line stood out. Rule number 1, do not open the back door, no matter what. The others were typical: restock the drinks, keep the register tidy, log gas sales. But that first rule, it pulsed in my head with each beat of my heart. The manager, a scrawny, sunken-eyed man named Craig, said it casually as he sipped his coffee. Look, Logan, it's an easy gig. Quiet, mostly. You'll get used to it. Just follow the rules, especially the first one. I asked him what was behind the door. He stared at me like I had just confessed a murder. Don't ask, just don't open it. He left me with a nod and a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. The first 2 hours passed without incident. I wiped down the counters, restocked shelves, and watched a raccoon pace around the trash bins outside. The store lights buzzed softly above me, and a small old radio played a fuzzy country station in the background. At 1:03 a.m., something knocked on the back door. 3 short raps. Sharp, measured. I froze with a bottle of Sprite in one hand. My mind jumped to 100 explanations. Maybe Craig forgot something. Maybe a delivery was early. Maybe nothing. But then I remembered the rule. My skin prickled. I waited. Nothing followed. No footsteps. No voice. No knock again. I forced myself to breathe and resumed my stocking. At 1:28 a.m., the knocking returned. This time louder. Heavier. Slower. I stood behind the counter and stared at the security monitor. The cameras covered the pumps, the front lot, and the aisles inside, but not the back door. It was the one blind spot. I picked up the phone and called Craig. He didn't answer. The knocking stopped after about 30 seconds. I told myself it was wind or an animal or nothing at all. I didn't sleep when I got home that morning. The silence of my apartment felt louder than the store. I kept thinking about that door. The next night, the knocks returned. 2:12 a.m. sharp. Slow. Knuckle against steel. I watched the door through the small square window behind the register. I couldn't see anything except the faint shadow of movement on the ground. It was enough to freeze my breath in my throat. Again, I called Craig. No answer. This time, I shouted, "We're closed," and flipped the store's front sign to close even though the knocking came from the back. No reply. The knocking stopped. I walked the back hallway slowly, like every step might trigger something hiding in the shadows. I stood 6 feet from the door, watching it. The bottom seemed flickered with faint movement, as though someone's feet were shifting just on the other side. I swallowed hard and spoke again. "You're not supposed to be here. I can't open it." This time, I heard something. A voice. So faint, it barely pierced the air. "Please, help. I'm cold." It sounded like a woman. Fragile. Terrified. My hand drifted toward the handle. Then I stopped, because her voice wasn't right. There was no echo, no texture. It sounded like someone had whispered into a microphone with all the emotion drained from it. I backed away slowly. The voice repeated its plea, over and over, like a skipping record. That night, I made it a point to never walk back there again. By the 4th night, I was unraveling. The knocking had become predictable. Same time, same rhythm, but the voice changed. It didn't beg anymore. It mimicked. At 3 a.m., it spoke in my voice. "Hey, Logan, come on, open up. It's just me." I stumbled back and dropped a box of candy bars. I wanted to leave, but something rooted me in place. I grabbed the old radio and cranked the volume, trying to drown the sound out with music. But even under the twang of a guitar, I could still hear it, soft, low, whispering words I couldn't understand. At 3:27 a.m., the power flickered. Once, twice, then everything shut off. Lights, radio, refrigerator hum, everything. I was plunged into absolute silence. And then it spoke again, right outside the door. "No more rules, Logan." The voice was deeper now. Familiar, but wrong. I could hear breathing. Slow, wet breathing. I stayed huddled under the counter for the rest of my shift, Flashlight clutched so tightly in my hands that the plastic cracked. At sunrise, everything turned back on at once. Lights, music, hum of life. And the voice disappeared. Night 6 broke me. Craig finally answered his phone that afternoon. I demanded to know what the hell was going on. He was silent for so long. I thought he'd hung up. Then he said, "Did you open it?" "No." I snapped. "Good. Just don't. Don't talk to it. Don't even listen." I asked what it was. He hesitated. "There's a reason this store's been passed around for years. Nobody lasts more than a month. It doesn't like being ignored." He hung up. I sat in my car for 15 minutes before going inside that night. I almost turned the ignition and drove off. But I didn't. Some part of me needed to see it again, to understand. That night, I brought my phone and started recording at 2 a.m. I wanted proof, something I could show someone. The knocking came, 2:17 a.m. as if on cue. I aimed the phone at the hallway leading to the back door. The knock stopped, and something stepped into view. A shadow, human-shaped. No face, just darkness, thick and swaying. My phone trembled in my hand. I couldn't move. It didn't knock. It scratched this time. Long, slow claws dragging down metal. My heart pounded. My stomach twisted. It turned slowly toward the camera and smiled. A slit of red, jagged light cut across where its face should have been. I dropped the phone and ran to the front. I tried the door. Locked. It was always unlocked during night shift, but now it wouldn't budge. I was trapped. I looked behind me. The hallway was empty, but I heard something inside the store now, a dragging sound, and laughter. Not loud, not fast, just a low, gleeful chuckle. It was in my voice. At dawn, the front door opened without resistance. The lights returned. The laughter stopped. My phone? Gone. I looked at the security footage. The last 2 hours were static, but there was one frame burned into the screen. A still shot of me standing in the hallway, eyes wide, mouth open, arms outstretched toward the back door. Only it wasn't me. It looked like me, yes. Same clothes, same hair, but the eyes were black holes. And the smile wasn't human. The smile that followed me home. I didn't go to sleep that day. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that frame, my face, or something wearing it, smiling at me with that empty stare. I stayed on my couch with all the lights on, gripping a baseball bat like it could protect me from something that wasn't even human. At 3:43 p.m., my doorbell rang. I froze. No one ever visited me. I barely knew my neighbors. My building was always quiet during the day, most people at work or asleep. I inched toward the door and peeked through the peephole. No one was there. I opened it cautiously. Nothing. But right at my feet was a package. Small, wrapped in brown paper, no name or address. I picked it up and unwrapped it with trembling hands. Inside was my phone, the one I dropped at the gas station. The screen was cracked, the camera lens shattered, but it turned on, and there was one new video in the gallery. The timestamp, 2:23 a.m. I tapped play. The screen showed the back hallway. I was holding the phone, walking toward the back door. The knocks echoed loudly. But in the video, I didn't stop. I walked forward. I reached out and gripped the handle. I opened it. The video ended there. I sat on the floor for a long time, staring at the blank screen. I hadn't opened the door. I was sure of it. I remembered running. I remembered hiding. Didn't I? When I looked up, the hallway light in my apartment was flickering, and there were wet footprints, starting from the door and trailing toward my bedroom. I followed them one step at a time. They stopped at my closet. The door was slightly open. I stood there for what felt like an hour, heart pounding so hard it drowned out every sound. Slowly, I reached out and pulled it open. Nothing, just clothes, shoes, darkness. Then I noticed something strange. My black hoodie. It was damp. I hadn't worn it in weeks. I reached out to touch it and felt something move behind the fabric. A hand. I screamed and slammed the door shut, holding it with all my weight. It pushed once. Hard. Then stopped. Silence. I backed away, bat in hand, and left my apartment without looking back. I didn't care if I was crazy. I didn't care if no one believed me. I wasn't going to stay there. That night, I told Craig I quit. He didn't even try to talk me out of it. He just sighed and said, "You made it longer than most." I asked him again what was behind the door. He looked at me for a long time, then finally said, "It doesn't have a name. It changes, learns you, becomes you. Once you acknowledge it, it starts peeling pieces of you away. Memories, thoughts, smiles." I left without saying goodbye. 2 days later, I got a voicemail from Craig. His voice was hoarse, urgent. "Logan, it's out. Someone opened the damn door. I don't know who, maybe the new guy. I tried to warn him, but it's too late. It's not staying behind the door anymore. Be careful. If it followed you once, it'll follow you again. It wants to finish what it started." Then the line cut to static. That night, I stayed in a cheap motel an hour out of town. I kept the lights on and the curtains closed. I bolted the door and placed the bat beside the bed. I hadn't slept in nearly 3 days. At 3 a.m., I woke up gasping. Not because of a nightmare, because of the knocking. Not on the door. From inside the bathroom. 3 slow knocks. I sat up slowly. There was a shadow under the bathroom door. Unmoving. Then it spoke. "Logan." My name. My voice. Slightly off, like a puppet learning to speak. "I know you're awake." I didn't move. It knocked again. 3 more times. "You already opened the door. Remember?" I shook my head. Whispered, "No." The light in the room dimmed, buzzing like it was being drained. And then I saw something on the mirror in the bathroom door. A message, written backward from inside. "Welcome back." I ran. Didn't take my bag. Didn't look back. Just sprinted out into the night. And didn't stop until I reached the highway. It's been 3 weeks. I've been sleeping in my car, never staying in one place too long. Every night, 3 a.m., the knocking finds me. Sometimes behind a tree. Sometimes under the car. Once from inside the trunk. The voice gets better at sounding like me every night. I hear it even when I'm awake now. Laughing. Repeating things I've said. Sometimes I catch glimpses in reflective surfaces. Mirrors, windows, even puddles. My face. But not my eyes. It wears me like a suit. And it wants everyone to see it. 2 nights ago, I met a man outside a diner. He was smoking and staring at me like he recognized me. "You worked at Miller's, didn't you?" he asked. I nodded cautiously. He took a long drag and said, "Me too. 15 years ago." I asked him what happened. He said nothing for a long time. Then, "It comes for all of us eventually. The ones who heard it. The ones who answered." He handed me a journal. Thick, worn, pages stained with something dark. "Keep moving," he said. "Don't let it learn you too well. Don't let it finish the smile." Then he walked away. That night, I read the journal. It was filled with stories, drawings, the same knocking, the same voices, different names, different places, but always the back door, always a smile, always the same end. I'm not sure how much time I have left. The knocking gets closer every night. Last night, it didn't even knock. It just whispered over and over, "You're not you anymore." When I looked in the rear-view mirror this morning, for a full 2 seconds, my reflection didn't move with me, where my reflection should be. I ditched the car just after dawn. I had to. That morning, the engine refused to start. Not dead, just refusing. When I popped the hood, everything looked fine. No loose wires, no leaks. But sitting right on top of the battery, neat as a gift, was my driver's license. I hadn't seen it in days. It had gone missing after that first night at the gas station. But the face on the ID wasn't mine anymore. Same name, same address. But the photo showed something else. It looked like me, sure. But the eyes were pitch black and the smile was too wide. Just like that still frame from the security footage. I left the car and started walking. I didn't know where I was going. All I knew was, keep moving. I passed a convenience store just before noon and stepped in to grab water. The man behind the counter looked up and paused. "You all right?" he asked. I nodded, grabbing a bottle and placing it on the counter. He squinted. "You look like hell, man." When I handed him the money, his eyes flicked down at my hands. "Your fingers." I looked. They were blackened at the tips, almost like frostbite. But I hadn't been in the cold. I hadn't even noticed. I yanked my hand back and bolted from the store. In the bathroom of a nearby gas station, I checked myself in the mirror. My eyes looked normal. My skin pale, but my fingertips, each one stained black like ash. No pain, no numbness. I rubbed them under hot water, scrubbed with soap. Nothing helped. When I looked back up, my reflection was gone. Just the bathroom behind me. Nothing where my body should have been. I backed away slowly. The second I stepped out of the mirror's line of sight, I felt breath on my neck. "Almost ready," it whispered in my voice. That night, I slept in the lobby of an all-night laundromat. Bright lights, people around. I figured it was safer. I sat in the corner chair, arms crossed, forcing myself to stay awake. But I must have drifted off, because I woke to silence. Empty chairs, spinning machines. The humming had stopped, and the back door to the laundromat was swinging open. I approached slowly. The air behind was thick, foggy, like the heat from a dying fire. A man stood just outside, motionless, his back to me. He wore a jacket identical to mine, hair same as mine. The way he tilted his head was just like me, and then he turned. The face, it was mine, but it didn't move like a face should. The smile stretched too far. The eyes were open too wide. And when it spoke, its voice echoed like it came from every direction at once. "You left the door open." I slammed it shut, locked it, backed away. A washer door popped open behind me, banging loud against the machine. Inside wasn't clothes. It was my hoodie, still wet, still smelling like mold and smoke. Stuffed into the sleeve was a note, a piece of cardboard ripped from a cereal box, written in sharp black ink. "It's not behind the door anymore. It's behind you." I ran again. No plan, no direction, just as far from reflections, shadows, or doors as I could get. Eventually, I found myself in a rest stop off the highway. Middle of nowhere, just a bathroom, a vending machine, and broken lights flickering in the parking lot. I locked myself in the stall and sat on the toilet lid, arms wrapped around myself. I don't know how long I stayed there. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. But eventually, the light under the stall door changed. Someone was standing just outside. No footsteps. No sound. Just shadow. Then I heard the voice. But not mine this time. Craig's. Soft. Shaky. Terrified. "Logan, don't let it in. If you let it in, it stays. It becomes. Don't let it smile for you." Then silence. No footsteps walking away. No sound of retreat. I opened the stall door slowly. Empty bathroom. But on the mirror, something new had been scratched in deep, jagged letters. "One of us has to go." The next town over was a blur. I tried checking into a motel, but the clerk froze when he saw me. "You just checked in," he said. "No, I didn't." He turned the guest book toward me. There it was. My name. My signature. My room key was 207. I asked to see the security footage. He frowned, said he didn't like messing with the tech stuff, and offered me a refund. I took it and left. But I had to know. I circled the motel from the outside. Found room 207. Curtains drawn. Light under the door. I stepped close and heard my voice inside, laughing. Then someone else joined in. Deeper. Wetter. Two of me. The laugh turned into screaming. Not scared. Ecstatic. Like something was finally complete. I backed away and ran. The journal the old man gave me had a page I hadn't noticed before. Taped to the back cover. Hidden behind the spine. It was a list. A single sentence repeated over and over with different names. He smiled for _____, and no one ever saw them again. Craig, Miles, Dana, Samir. Then, At the bottom, my name, Logan, and underneath, freshly written in darker ink. Not done yet. Last night, I saw myself again. Not in a mirror, in person. It was standing across the street as I sat on a bench, drinking coffee from a convenience store cup I hadn't bought. It tilted its head, just like I did when I was confused. It waved once. Slow. Deliberate. I didn't wave back. Then, slowly, it raised a hand and pressed a finger to its lips. S-H-H-H-H-H-H. And disappeared. Not behind something. Not by walking. It blinked out like a frame was cut from reality. I don't know how much longer I have. I haven't slept in 2 days. My fingertips are black now, all the way down to the knuckles. Sometimes I wake up mid-sentence, saying things I don't remember thinking. Sometimes people look at me funny on the street, like they recognize me, or like they're seeing something just beneath my skin. Last night, I saw a missing poster taped to a telephone pole. It had my face on it. My real face. Name, Logan Parker. Missing, 9 days. Last seen, Miller's Gas and Go. Reward offered. Someone thinks I'm gone. Someone's looking for me. But I'm right here. Aren't I? The other me. I walked into a bar tonight. Not because I wanted to drink. My stomach couldn't handle anything but gas station coffee and paranoia, but because the television in the window was playing the news, and I recognized the image they flashed. It was me. Grainy security footage from what looked like a convenience store. Miller's. The anchor's voice was distant, but I heard enough to understand. Logan Parker, 27. Missing since last month. Last recorded footage shows erratic behavior. Approaching restricted area. I leaned closer to the screen. The footage showed me, except it wasn't. The person moved like they didn't know how limbs worked. Too stiff. Too fluid. Like a puppet on broken strings. He walked backward toward the back door, eyes locked on the ceiling the whole time. Then, frame by frame, he turned, smiled wide, and reached for the handle. Static cut the footage off. I didn't remember that. Or maybe I did. It's getting hard to tell what's real. I stepped inside the bar. Nobody looked at me. That was a relief. Or maybe they were ignoring me. The bartender came over, offered a drink. I shook my head and asked if he knew the guy on the news. He didn't respond. He just looked past me and said, "You were here last night." I wasn't. I told him that. He tilted his head, suddenly uncomfortable. "No, I served you. You sat at that same stool. Didn't say a word. Just smiled." He backed away before I could ask more. I turned toward the mirror behind the bar. My reflection was there, but it blinked a second too late. I left the bar and walked 4 blocks before realizing I didn't remember walking them. I was on a different street. The buildings looked unfamiliar, wrong somehow, like old movie sets, facades with nothing behind them, and the shadows were too dark. They watched every window, every alley, shapes, faces, all mine, variations of me, staring out. One had no eyes. Another had a split jaw. One was just teeth, rows and rows and rows, grinning. They didn't move, until I looked away. Then I heard the footsteps behind me, matching mine, perfectly. Even when I stopped suddenly, they stopped after a half-second too late, lagging, like an echo. I ran. I found a motel again. Didn't care what it cost. Just needed walls and locks. Inside the room, I pulled the curtains shut and covered the mirror with a towel. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and took out the journal. There was one entry I hadn't read yet, scribbled in the back with frantic lines. The smile isn't just a face. It's a door. Once it finishes forming, it opens, and it lets it in. Below that, in smaller letters, "You are the door." I didn't sleep, but I must have passed out, because I woke up to knocking, not from the back door, from under the bed, soft, hollow, like knuckles tapping wood. I didn't move. The knocking stopped, and then breathing, wet close right beneath me, and a voice. "You're smiling in your sleep, Logan." I stood up fast, stumbled back, hit the dresser. No one under the bed, no one in the room. But the mirror? The towel had fallen. My reflection was smiling. I wasn't. It lifted its hand, slow and deliberate, and pointed at me. Then it opened its mouth and screamed, a horrible, static-laced scream that didn't match the room. It came through my ears and eyes and mind at once. I dropped to the floor, clutching my head. When I looked up, the mirror was cracked, but the smile was still there, imprinted in the broken glass. I drove again. Didn't matter where. I ended up at an old church on the edge of a dying town. The sign out front had been smashed. The door hung open, but inside, quiet, clean. Candlelight still flickered. I sat in the last pew. For a while, I was alone. Then a man sat beside me. Didn't look at me, just whispered, "How long's it been following you?" I didn't answer. He nodded like he understood. They say if it fully becomes you, you disappear. Not physically. Just nobody remembers you. Not your face. Not your name. You're erased. I turned to him. He was crying. "Do you remember your mother's voice?" he asked. I paused, tried to hear it in my mind, but I couldn't. I remembered I had a mother. I remembered we fought a lot. I remembered she loved lilies. But her voice? Gone. He nodded. First the voice, then the memories, then the name. He stood and walked away. I ran after him, but he was gone. That night, I slept in a graveyard. I know, sounds insane, but it felt safer. No mirrors, no doors, just stones and names and silence. Until I saw it. My name, carved into a stone near the edge. Logan Parker, 1996 to 2025. He smiled too late. I stepped back, heart pounding, bowel rising in my throat. And behind me, a whisper. "Now everyone will forget you." I woke up this morning in a diner booth. No idea how I got there. Waitress poured coffee without asking. Said, "The usual, Logan?" I nodded, confused. She brought a plate of eggs. But they were cold and shaped wrong. The yolk stared up at me like eyes. The toast was burnt into a grin. I didn't touch the food, just looked around. No one else in the diner moved. They all stared at me. Every one of them had my face. Every one of them was smiling. The final smile. I left the diner before the coffee even touched my lips. The smiling faces stayed etched in my mind as I stumbled out, shaking. No one moved. The air outside felt thicker. The town felt hollow, like something was breathing beneath it. The horizon seemed to bend, as though everything was warped by something unseen. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to escape. I tried walking, but the streets seemed to loop. Every turn I made, I ended up at the same place. Every corner, every alley led me back to where I started. The back door. I couldn't avoid it forever. The voice, my voice, began whispering in my head again. You can't run from it. I didn't know if I was running from the thing that was following me or if I was running from myself. By the time I reached the gas station, the sun was already dipping below the horizon. The store was dim, empty, the neon signs outside flickering weakly. And there, standing in front of the door, was the silhouette of someone. Not someone I recognized, but someone familiar. It had my build, my posture, even my walk. It turned slowly and faced me. And then it smiled. The same smile. Wide. Too wide. Dark, empty eyes. My eyes. I backed away, but it stepped forward, matching my every move. You thought you could leave, it whispered, its voice twisting into mine. But you can't outrun yourself, Logan. Not anymore. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I felt my legs lock. My body refused to move. I was frozen in place, and every thought in my mind felt like it was being pulled out one by one, leaving behind only that smile. It took a step closer, and then another, its breath, slow, heavy, pushed against my skin like it was trying to consume me. You're already gone, it said, its voice growing louder, twisting into something unrecognizable. No one remembers you. No one will ever remember you. The door is open, Logan. You let it in. I tried to close my eyes, to block it out, but I couldn't. It wasn't just behind me anymore. It was inside me. I reached for the door, my hand trembling as I grasped the handle. The metal was cold, but when I pulled, it didn't open. I turned the knob again, harder this time, but nothing. The back door. It wasn't locked. It wasn't stuck. It was refusing to open. "Please," I begged, my voice cracking. "Let me out." The thing behind me didn't answer. It just watched. The smile never faltered. I yanked harder, every muscle in my body straining. The door finally gave way. But the second it opened, the world around me shifted. The gas station, the parking lot, the road, all of it disappeared in an instant. I was standing in darkness. There were no stars, no moon, just blackness. And in the distance, I saw something. A silhouette, a door. I couldn't see what was beyond it, but I knew. I knew it was waiting for me. The thing behind me stepped closer, and with it, 1,000 other somethings, all of them with my face, with my eyes, my smile. They all whispered at once. "You can never escape." The air around me grew heavier. I felt suffocated. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. It all started to feel like a loop, a cycle that couldn't end. I had already been here, hadn't I? I had already done this. It had already happened. I had already let it in. I woke up in my car. The sun was just beginning to rise. I was parked on a dirt road outside of town. There were no mirrors, no windows reflecting the wrong faces, just the quiet morning. But something wasn't right. I reached for my phone to check the time, and when I looked up, I saw the gas station in the distance, the back door, and behind it, a figure. It stood perfectly still, waiting, watching. But this time it wasn't me. It wasn't anything I recognized. It was just a shadow, a whisper in the wind. And the smile? It was still there, still waiting, just behind the door. He left the door open. I don't remember turning the engine on. One blink, I was staring at the distant shape of the gas station to the morning haze. The next, I was already halfway there. The world around me blurred, as if time didn't want to move in a straight line anymore. Trees passed like broken teeth. Power lines flickered in and out of vision. The deeper I drove into town, the less real it all felt. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly the skin split the knuckles. I wasn't in control anymore. The road pulled me. Somewhere inside I knew I wasn't going back to close the door. I was going back to become it. The station sat like a fossil in the morning light. The pumps were quiet. No traffic. No birds. Just silence. And that hum, that low-frequency vibration you don't hear but feel, deep in your chest, in your teeth, in your spine. The door was already unlocked. As I stepped inside, the smell hit me first. Damp wood, sour milk, gasoline, something metallic. It felt like breathing in a memory I didn't recognize. All the lights were off except one, the flickering overhead bulb above aisle 3. And the knocking had already started. I didn't even need to hear it. I felt it. Every knock like a heartbeat in my skull. Slow, measured, unavoidable. I walked toward the back door. This time, no whisper came. No pleas. No mimicry. No smiling reflection. Just silence. But the silence was worse. It meant it didn't need to hide anymore. I stopped 6 feet from the back door. The same distance as that first night. That memory was so clear. But something about it was wrong now. In that memory, I remember standing there, alone, afraid. But now, there was someone standing beside me. I didn't look at him. I couldn't, but I knew he was smiling. And I knew he looked like me. "Go ahead," he said softly. "It's your shift." I turned the handle slowly. The metal didn't resist. The door opened. And behind it was not a hallway. It was not a parking lot. It was a mirror, not a reflection. A perfect version of the gas station, but without me in it. Shelves stood full of stock. The register beeped with life. But no one moved inside. No one worked. Except for him. The version of me. He stood behind the counter, scanning nothing, smiling at no one. He turned and stared directly at me through the doorway. He said nothing, but his mouth moved. And somehow I heard it. You were always going to open the door. I tried to step back, but I couldn't. My feet were rooted to the floor like stone. The thing beside me, the smiling version, leaned close. 10 minutes, he whispered. That's all it takes. Just 10 minutes on the other side. After that, you're not just the one who opened the door. You are the door. He nudged me forward, and I fell through. I landed hard on the tiled floor. The lights above were buzzing. The gas station looked normal, but reversed. The Pepsi fridge was on the left instead of the right. The magazine rack faced the wrong direction. The clock ticked backwards. And behind the counter was me, still smiling, still scanning nothing, still watching. I tried to speak. He raised a finger to his lips. SHHH. The lights flickered, and all the exit signs turned off. Something crawled out from the cooler. It wasn't human. Not exactly. It had bones arranged like a person, but twisted, bent backward. Its face was covered in stretched, reflective skin like glass. It didn't walk. It skated, glided, moving soundlessly. It wasn't after me. It circled the smiling version of me and bowed like it worshipped him, or maybe like it answered him. That's when I realized this place was never behind the door. It was the door. I turned, running for the back wall, tried to escape through where the real-world freezer door should have been. But when I touched it, it felt like rubber, like flesh. It rippled under my palm. A whisper slid across the walls, repeating the same phrase. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I looked down at my hands. They were fading, becoming see-through. I was melting into this place. The more I breathed it, the more it became me. I collapsed to the floor. And then he crouched beside me, the smiling one, no longer mimicking, just existing, as me. Why fight it? He asked gently. You left the door open too long. Now something has to walk through. I screamed and shoved him back. The moment I touched him, pain shot through my entire body. Images filled my head. People I didn't know. Places I had never seen. Laughter that wasn't mine. Lives that didn't belong to me. He stood, brushing dust off his jacket. You were never chosen. You were opened. He turned and walked away, disappearing behind aisle 3. And I followed. Behind the shelf was a staircase. Not a normal one. It spiraled downward into nothing. Each step was made of memories. Photos, toys, clothing, journal pages, teeth, each one mine, each one fading. I screamed as I descended, trying to hang onto a single thought, a single real image. My mom, her garden, her voice. Gone. The smiling me was waiting at the bottom, and behind him was another door. Wood. Rotting. Chained shut. He stepped aside. You can leave, he said, but something has to stay in your place. I reached for the handle, and he smiled again, so wide it tore his face apart. Black ichor dripped from his gums. Behind me, dozens of others stood, all Logans, all waiting, all with that same smile. Something has to stay. I didn't open the chain door at the bottom of the stairwell. Not at first. I just stared at it, sweat rolling down my spine, heart pounding like a jackhammer against my ribs. The wood throbbed like something living, the chains clinking softly like they were breathing. The smiling one stood beside me, motionless, watching. You can go, he repeated, voice smooth as oil. But someone has to stay. That's the rule. I wanted to ask who made the rule. I wanted to scream at him, but my throat was dry, my voice gone, like it had been stolen. Behind me, the others waited. 100 Logans in the dark, some twitching, some hunched, some decaying, all smiling, all silent. I turned to look back up the stairs. They were gone. Only darkness remained where I had come from. The smiling one leaned in, whispering again. There was never a door. There was never a door, Logan. Only you. I stepped back. The truth hit like a wave. This place, this reflection, this wrong version of the gas station, was never somewhere I entered. It wasn't a location. It was me. It was everything I ignored. Everything I let fester. The moment I heard the knock and stayed. The second I questioned it, that sliver of curiosity that bloomed into obsession. That was the true opening. And now the door wasn't between two rooms. The door was in my chest. My mind. My smile. I gritted my teeth and turned toward the chain door. If someone has to stay, I said, finally finding my voice, it won't be me. The smiling one didn't stop me. He didn't need to, because the moment I touched the handle, a scream tore through the space. Not from the door, but from me. My hands burst into static, flickering in and out of visibility, my skin pixelating like it was being pulled apart. You were warned, the smiling one said gently. But warnings are for listeners. You were always watching. The chain fell off the door by itself. The wood split down the middle, and from inside, something stepped out. It wasn't a version of me. It wasn't even human. It looked like a shadow stitched from every mistake I'd ever made. Faces of people I'd forgotten, eyes of those I'd let down, mouths shaped by screams I'd caused or ignored. It moved like smoke and rot in memory. And it reached for me. I turned to run, but the floor was gone. The stairs had become a wall of watching eyes. The ceiling had folded in, and the only way out was through. The thing lunged. Its hands, if they could be called that, sank through my chest like I was made of fog, and I felt something leave me. A jolt, a tug, a fragment, like it tore out a file from a cabinet deep in my brain. My name. I tried to say it, and nothing came out. The smiling one stepped forward. He placed a hand on my shoulder. Warm. Familiar. Wrong. You made the choice, he said. You opened. You looked. You smiled. Then he took my face in his hands and slowly, carefully pulled. Not the skin, something beneath it. It didn't hurt. It was worse than pain. It felt like forgetting. I blinked. The gas station was quiet. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. I was standing at the register. A customer waited, placing a bottle of soda on the counter. I scanned it, smiled. $1.79, I said. He looked at me strangely. You all right, man? You look kind of pale. I nodded. Just tired. He paid, left. The door chimed. I turned and looked around the store. It was clean, normal. I checked the clock. 3 a.m., my shift. Everything seemed fine. But when I glanced at the security mirror above the door, I paused. The man in the mirror smiled back. But I hadn't smiled. I leaned closer. He leaned too, a half second off. The delay. I stared, and the smile widened. Too wide. I went to the back door, put my ear to it. No knock, no voice, just my breath. Except it wasn't just mine. The second I stepped away, the door whispered, "You stayed." I don't know how long I've been working here now. Days? Weeks? Longer? Customers come and go. They don't look me in the eye. They avoid the back of the store. And sometimes when I check the footage, I see two versions of me at once. One behind the counter, and one just standing, smiling. The back door never opens. Not anymore, because I already did. And I think something else is out now. Wearing me. Out there. Laughing with friends. Sleeping in my bed. Taking pictures with my smile. I can't leave the station. When I try, the road leads me right back. The car won't start. My phone won't dial. There's no signal. I'm stuck. Because I stayed. Because something had to. Because something always does. And now I know what the next person will see when they take this job. A dusty desk, a schedule, and a single rule. Don't open the back door. The new hire. The gas station looked different today. I don't mean the shelves or the layout. Those never change. I mean the air. The way it felt. Stale yet charged. Like lightning trapped in a balloon. The fluorescent lights buzzed louder than usual. The clock above the register was stuck at 3 a.m., no matter how many times I reset it. But something had changed. I wasn't alone anymore. There was a new guy. He walked in with a backpack slung over his shoulder, fresh eyes, and a hopeful smile. Maybe 19, maybe 20, a little too eager for a night shift at a station no one visited. Craig had told me once, the ones who want this job too much are the first to be taken. I watched from the back as he wandered in. The manager, who doesn't have a name, or maybe who forgot it, handed him a small sheet of paper, the one with the rules. The same list I'd read on my first day. He squinted at it, confused, then asked the same question I once did. What's with the last rule? The manager didn't answer. He never does. Just handed over the keys and walked out without looking back. And the door clicked shut. I stayed in the security office, watching the monitors. I wasn't supposed to still be here, but something hadn't finished with me yet. The cameras glitched every few minutes. Static bled across the screens. But when they cleared, the boy, his name tag read Evan, was behind the counter, chewing gum and scrolling through his phone. I remember that feeling, thinking nothing weird had happened yet, that maybe it was all just ghost stories whispered by paranoid night shifters, that maybe I could do this job and just go home in the morning. That lie doesn't last long. At 2:59 a.m., the power blinked. Just once. The store went dark for exactly 2 seconds. When it came back up, Evan was staring at the back door. He didn't say a word, just kept looking. Even when customers came in, 2 of them, eyes glazed, moving too instinct to be real, he never turned away from that door. Not until it knocked. 3 slow taps. I felt it through the monitors. The echo wasn't just in the store. It was in my chest. I saw Evan jump. And then I saw it, his smile. It twitched across his face without his permission. Quick, nervous, but still there. That's how it starts. I left the security room. Had to. I needed to warn him. But when I stepped out into the store, he didn't see me. I called his name. Nothing. I waved my hand in front of his face. Still nothing. I wasn't there. Not to him. To him. The store was empty. He was alone. That's when I saw myself on the camera. I was standing right behind the register, behind Evan, watching him, smiling. But I wasn't there. I was in the middle of the store. And yet, I could feel it, that version of me. It was pulling the strings, and Evan had already taken the bait. The knocking came again, louder this time. The soda bottles on the shelf vibrated. Evan flinched, dropped his phone. Then, slowly, against everything he knew, he walked toward the back. No, I whispered, don't. But the door had already started to open. A crack of shadow leaked into the store like spilled ink. From the crack came a hand, thin, gray, covered in writhing teeth. It pressed against the inside of the door, like it was pushing through a membrane. Evan froze. The smile faded. He stepped back, and the hand stopped, retreated, then silence. The door closed on its own, but Evan didn't move. His lips parted. He whispered, "What the hell was that?" He looked around, and for the first time his eyes met mine. Not the me in the camera. The real me. I was visible, just for a second, and he screamed. I ran, back into the security room, locked the door, sat with my back against it. I didn't want him to see me again, to ask what I was, or who. I didn't have answers anymore. All I had were the rules, and rule number 5 was broken. 30 minutes later, Evan left the store. He didn't quit, didn't speak, didn't take his backpack. He just walked into the parking lot and stood beneath the flickering light and smiled. His reflection in the glass door smiled before he did. I watched on the screen as he turned, slow and stiff, and looked back at the gas station, then walked away. I haven't seen him since. That night, I found something new in the office drawer. A photo, crisp, fresh, me, standing behind the counter, smiling. Evan, mopping the floor, looking over his shoulder, wide-eyed, scrawled across the bottom in black marker. 1 out, 1 in. I think I understand now. It's not about the door. It's not about opening or closing. It's about balance. For one of us to walk out, someone else must take our place. And I'm not the last. The job listing is still live online. Night shift, quiet location, $18 per hour. One rule: No shift ever ends. There's no clock anymore. The one above the register cracked last night. I watched it shatter in slow motion, like something wanted me to see every fragment fall. The glass didn't fall down, it floated, hung in the air like raindrops frozen midstorm. And when they finally hit the tile, the sound they made wasn't breaking glass. It was laughter, not from a mouth, not from mine, not even human. It was as if the walls were exhaling a memory of laughter. And I laughed with it, not because I wanted to, because I couldn't stop. I stopped counting nights a long time ago, but today felt different. I woke up behind the counter, head down, arms crossed, like I'd fallen asleep upright. I didn't remember closing my eyes. I didn't remember blinking. Hell, I didn't even remember existing for the last, hours? Days? But when I looked around, someone was watching me from aisle 5. Not a customer. Not Evan. It was me again. Only this version wasn't smiling. His face was expressionless, but his eyes, empty, hollow, like they'd seen what came after smiling. He lifted a finger and pointed down at the floor. I followed his gaze. There was a hole there. It hadn't been there yesterday. I got on my knees and looked. There was something in the hole. A box. Small, metal, rusted shut. I reached in, half expecting my arm to be bitten off. But nothing happened. The box was cold, solid. I pulled it out. There was no keyhole, no latch. Just one word carved into the top. Return. I left it on the counter and stared at it all shift. No customers came. No wind blew. Even the humming stopped. Just me and the box, and the feeling that something beneath the floor was waiting. I tried not to open it, but the more I didn't, the more it changed. Each hour, a new letter carved itself deeper. Return. Return to sender. The last word bled red. Not paint. It pulsed, like it had a heartbeat. I didn't remember bleeding. But when I checked my nose, my ears, my gums, something had leaked. I tasted copper in the back of my throat. At exactly 3 a.m., the box clicked. Once, and opened by itself. Inside, a single Polaroid. Not old. Fresh. It showed the back of the gas station. The back door. And standing in front of it, me. But in this photo, I was screaming. Hands pressed against the glass. Face contorted. Eyes wide. And behind me, coming through the cracked open door, was a hand made of shadows, wrapped around my shoulder. A second photo slid out from beneath the first. This one was worse. It showed me, smiling. Same location. Same angle. Same door. But the thing behind me wasn't just touching my shoulder anymore. It was wearing me, like a costume that didn't quite fit. My skin stretched too tight. My eyes too still. My mouth grinning, even when it shouldn't. The hand was inside me, controlling me. And behind my smile, in the reflection on the glass, was me, still trapped, still screaming. The register beeped. I jumped. A customer. Finally. A woman. Late 60s. Tired eyes. Purse clutched too tight. She stepped to the counter, slid a candy bar forward. Slow night? She asked. I blinked. Swallowed. Nodded. She didn't smile. Didn't look me in the eyes. She leaned closer and whispered, "You left the door cracked." Then turned and walked out. The door didn't chime. It sighed. I ran to the back. There it was. A sliver of black between the frame and the door. Barely enough to fit a dime. And yet from that crack, I heard breathing. Deep, labored, like lungs too old to work but too stubborn to stop. Then, a voice. Mine. I'm still in here. I backed away. The box on the counter slammed shut by itself. I couldn't take it anymore. I packed a bag, grabbed my car keys, stormed out. The night air hit me like ice. I reached the lot, opened the car door, paused. There was something in the back seat. Another box. Identical. But this one didn't say return. It said replace. I ran. Not to anywhere. Just away. But the further I ran, the more the town bent. Houses repeated. Trees copied and pasted. Streetlights flickered in patterns, like code trying to break itself. And then I was back at the station. Same time, same sky, same pulsing light above pump 3. I think I get it now. There is no shift, no beginning, no end, only the loop. One opens the door, another smiles. One gets out, the other stays. But me? I think I smiled too late. I returned to the counter. The box waited. I opened it again. This time, only a note. Your replacement is on the way. Train him well. And below it, written in handwriting I didn't recognize, do not let him smile. I saw myself leave. It was 2:59 a.m. Again, I've stopped pretending I can fix the clocks. I've stopped resetting them. Stopped marking the dates. Stopped hoping the sun will rise and mean something. Time doesn't matter here. Only shifts. And something was shifting tonight. I sat behind the counter, staring at the box. Still sealed. Still humming softly. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. Not from fear. Fear left me weeks ago. This was something else. A sense of inevitability. Like when a storm's about to break, and everything goes still. I could feel the store holding its breath. Even the flickering lights above aisle 3 had stopped twitching. The silence wasn't comforting. It was a countdown. Then I heard the sound. Not the knock this time. A bell. The door chime. Someone walked in. I looked up and saw him. The new guy, but not like the others. Not bright-eyed. Not confused. He looked like he belonged here already, like he'd always been here. He looked like me. I didn't say anything. Neither did he. He just walked to the counter, placed a folded piece of paper in front of me, and slid it across without making eye contact. I opened it. For words, written in shaky ink. You can leave now. I stood slowly. My bones creaked like wood warping in water. Everything inside me said not to believe it. This place doesn't let you go. It loops you, replaces you, rewrites you. But something about him. He didn't smile. Not once. That's what made him different. I stepped toward the door, glancing once more at the back hallway. The door was closed. No knocks. No voices. No smile waiting to peel itself open. I kept walking. Each step felt like dragging myself out of mud. The glass door loomed ahead, blurred, dirty, but real. I placed my hand on it. It didn't resist. I pushed and stepped through. The air outside was cold. Real cold. It hit my lungs in a way I hadn't felt in I don't know how long. The parking lot was quiet. Empty. No customers. No headlights. Just my car sitting exactly where I left it months ago. Or maybe a copy of it. Didn't matter. I walked to the door, climbed inside, and didn't look back. Not until I saw the mirror. In the rear view, I saw the station. Lights still flickering. And the new me watching from the window. But he wasn't me. Not anymore. And he still hadn't smiled. That gave me hope. I turned the key. The engine started. It shouldn't have. But it did. I laughed. Or cried. Maybe both. I pulled onto the road. And it didn't loop. Didn't fold. Didn't send me back. The gas station grew smaller behind me. Until it vanished into the horizon. The road stretched ahead like something sacred. A return to life. To air. To real time. I passed signs I hadn't seen in forever. Fields. Trees. A gas station that wasn't that gas station. I drove until the sun rose. And I let it hit my face. I let it remind me that I was still human. Still here. At a small town on the edge of somewhere, I pulled into another station. One with music playing. A teenager behind the counter. And coffee that tasted awful but real. I sat at a table. Tried to breathe. Tried to remember my name. It came slow. But it came. Logan. Still me. Still here. I asked the cashier if I could use their phone. He handed it over. I dialed the number I hadn't used since this all began. My mom's. It rang. Once. Twice. Then, hello. It was her voice. Soft. Warm. Alive. I nearly dropped the phone. Mom. I said. A pause. Then, Logan. Tears hit the counter. I laughed again. I'm coming home. And just as I hung up, I caught the TV above the soda cooler flicker. A news story. Grainy footage. Still frame. The gas station. The one I left. And a figure behind the counter. A man. Eyes black. Smile wide. The caption. Unsolved disappearances continue to mount. Officials still baffled. But it wasn't me. Not anymore. I wasn't smiling. Somewhere back there, the door stayed closed. But not locked. Never locked. Because the job listing is still live. And all it says is, night shift, quiet location, one rule, the end.